What's going on, everybody? RJ Ochoa here from SB Nation's bloggingtheboys.com. Hope all is well wherever you are. We hope you're happy, safe, healthy, and that you are now fully calmed down from Sunday's loss to the Arizona Cardinals. It is Tuesday night, January 4th. If we haven't spoken to you until now, a very happy new year to you and yours. As it is Tuesday night, it is time for our weekly Blogging the Boys Roundtable. We do these live on the Blogging the Boys YouTube channel, so you can watch it there, either live or after the fact. You can always listen to it on the Blogging the Boys podcast network, available on Apple devices, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe, leave a rating, write a review. Joining me tonight in the 12 o'clock position, looking just like Bane from Batman, is Tom Ryle on Twitter at Tom Ryle BTB. Tom, great to see you. Over to Tom's left, your right, we have Tony Catalina. You hear him every other morning on Dallas Cowboys Roundup on the Blogging the Boys podcast network, as well as on Saturday mornings on 2 Minute Warning on Twitter at Tony_Catalina. Nobody likes the underscore Tony, just telling you now, since no one else is brave enough to. Underneath him, Aidan Davis, who co-hosts, I was going to say the Saturday Morning Hangover. That's a show I used to do on ESPN San Antonio. The 2 Minute Warning on Saturday mornings on Twitter at Aidan1214. Not sure if he's legally allowed to drive or not. Aidan is younger than all of us, so we'll see. Aidan, I think that's an NFC East Champions cap that you're sporting there tonight, is it?
No, just Dallas Cowboys.
Okay, well, whatever. Way to ruin the mood. Down underneath at 6 o'clock, Dave Sturchio, who you can hear on 2 Minute Warning at Chop Sports, everything Chop Sports. Make sure you check out Chop Sports, all their fantastic productions that they put out on Twitter at Dave Sturchio, one of the legendary Jersey Boys, and looking just like his hero, Nick Sirianni. It is Dan Rogers, who you can also hear on Dallas Cowboys Roundup, who you can see on Twitter being a bit feisty with people, including me early on today at Danny Phantom 24. Dan, I start with you. What's the last thing you had to drink? Is it water, soda, juice?
It's water. My wife is on the Daniel fast right now, so
okay. Like you, like as in the Daniel Rogers?
No, it's different than what I eat.
Mm-hmm.
But so right now, I've just been drinking a lot of water. I'm curious as to what tonight's dinner is going to be. So keep me in your thoughts.
Well, I think everyone needs to be in everyone's thoughts. We appreciate those of you who have joined us so far early on the stream. Dwayne Wright, Kevin, I think it's Shirey. Kevin, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Certainly don't want to mispronounce that. Donnie King, Craig English, Cowboys and 151. Don't know if that's Highway 151. Donnie King again and Cowboys 151. You guys are populating the comment section rather well so far. We have three main things that we're going to get into tonight, and two of them are rather divisive. So we'll start with one, we'll sandwich in the kind of peaceful one, and then we'll break apart yet again. So Sturch, I start with you. Are you ready to fight? Because if I'm being honest, you're kind of on an island on one of these subjects.
I'm always ready to fight, baby. Bring it on.
Tom, are you ready to fight? Because you were a bit spirited when we were talking about this offline. Are you feeling passionate this evening?
Oh, extremely.
Is that a Bane impersonation?
Is that creepy?
No, that was supposed to be. Okay, Kevin, I was correct. Okay, Kevin Shirey, congratulations to me. 100 points to me to get the party started. Also, so everybody is aware, Tony was awarded negative 10 points in our pre-show chat for basically being disruptive. Meanwhile, I already forgot who. It was Dan I gave 50 points to, was it not? Dan, so kudos to you. Not 100 that I already have. But Dan definitely was feeling feisty. So let's go ahead and start. Donnie King actually says, ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to rumble. So first subject. This is going around. All right. Everyone's Twitter handle, if you're watching the show, is on the screen, so you can tweet at them how you feel. So Aidan, I start with you. What do you think of the Cowboys blaming officiating for Sunday's loss to the Arizona Cardinals?
I think it's reasonable to be upset with officiating.
We want to take.
All right. And I think it's ridiculous to blame officiating. And here's why. First of all, the Cowboys, in terms of penalties per game, lead the NFL. Yards per game, they're second. So these penalties, I know you can say the Cowboys, whatever, the NFL hates the Cowboys, but that's not true, because there's no way you're accumulating 66 penalty yards a game solely off the fact that the NFL doesn't like the Cowboys. And I think what's kind of lost in the discussion of the main thing that people point out about officiating was obviously the fumble. But what's kind of being lost in that discussion is the fact that the Cowboys had 5 plays before the fumble to stop the Cardinals, and then they had 1 meaningful play after the fumble that they could have gotten the ball back. And we're just ignoring that like the fumble was the only play on that drive, and that's the only way that we could have won the game. When no, the Cowboys had so many opportunities to win the game. In fact, I saw something like, based off the Cowboys' mistakes, they left 12 points on the board, 12 expected points on the board. And so there's just so many ways the Cowboys won the game. And so solely blaming the officials to me is just, it's a little soft.
I want to let our video audience know and all of our panelists know that I'm starting a new tradition here on the Roundtable. Kudos to me for instituting this the final week of the regular season and just now having the idea. Tom, you're actually going to hate this because if you're watching, the person who is the current points leader on our roundtable now goes in the pole position that Tom is in. So Aidan is currently in the lead for tonight's winner after his first answer. We will move these guys around throughout the night. So if you move, hey, congratulations. Or maybe, sorry. Tony, let's go to you next. I look, it's fine if you want to believe it was a fumble. It's fine if you think some holds should have been called, whatever. But as Shabalaba says, great job by me, refs were bad and have been all year, but seeing the team blame them like they are is a bad look. Do you agree? Are the Cowboys being salty, Tony Catalina?
You know, my issue with the officiating is an entire like league-wide, season-wide, I'm just fed up, tired, exhausted of like, if it's not, one ref trying to make the show about him and, he's going to get his rocks off and flex his muscles every time he does a holding call. And, I'm just tired of the officiating inserting themselves into football games. No, I think we all know that the Cowboys weren't 1 play away from winning or losing this football game. It was 58, 59 minutes of them getting, beat. I mean, that's really what it was. They didn't lead at any single point in this game, if I remember correctly. But, at some point, you got to hold this league, which I think the NFL is the greatest sport, in the world. I think it's the greatest league in the world. But at some point, the standard has to be raised. The standard has to be raised. I think I correct me if I'm wrong, and I honestly do want conversation on this. Do you think it's something or even something that should really be a conversation to say, yeah, we're preparing for the Arizona Cardinals and whoever this week's referee matchup is, because they have such a pivotal impact when they're supposed to be a secondary complementary role to this game, to this league. And all of a sudden you got to worry about X, Y, and Z's ego, or he likes to throw flags here, or there's no consistency across the board. Now, I understand there's a human element, right? But they have New York, and New York is supposed to come down and correct calls. And then there's different ways that this league is in this games is supposed to be called that they don't interfere. And if they do interfere, it's in a positive manner. Every single week, whether it's Cowboys related or any team related, there's been a single point, at least in every game. I bet you if we really look back, where the NFL or the refs have inserted themselves in the situation. And I'm honestly just tired of it. Like at this point, like I don't want to have to prepare for two teams a game. And I can hear the frustration, and I can understand somebody like DeMarcus Lawrence tagging the league in the officiating for that photo. It's a bit much, but I can understand the point where you think you made a big stop, that, you're losing this whole game and you have a chance to, they could have went 3-0 and lost that football game or 4-0, whatever the case may be, but don't have the first 58 minutes of this game dictate how you're going to call in that moment and then rob them of an opportunity. That's kind of where I stand in it.
So I truly hadn't thought of this until now. The position that Aidan is in fact going to be our points leader, but we're going to go progressively. So where Tony's at is going to be our second points leader, where Dan is at third, Sturch fourth, and whoever is where Tom is riding caboose. Tony, I'm sorry. This just feels like whining. I mean, there's no consistency. What do you mean? Like the fact that it's happening everywhere proves that is consistency. Tom, is that fair?
I don't know if I quite follow that logic, but I think, people brought up the argument that the Cowboys are, they're the worst penalized team in the league, and somehow that's a reason why they shouldn't be complaining. To me, I want to question if somehow the Pittsburgh Steelers can be one of the lowest penalized teams in the league year after year after year after year. a Mike McCarthy coached team, after Mike McCarthy coached one of the lower penalized teams in the league for years, all of a sudden is getting the most penalties. And then there's the old eye test. I'm sorry. Anthony Brown got scapegoated. The official decided he was going to throw a flag on Anthony Brown anytime he looked wrong on a defensive play. And I hold that for some reason, the official decided he was going to make an example of Anthony Brown. I don't know why. Something is going on. And maybe blaming the officials for the loss in this game is shirking their own responsibility. But I understand why they're saying something, because this team is getting beat up on a pretty consistent basis, and we're seeing stuff. And yeah, the consistency is terrible. The classic thing of where they call a holding call on the Cowboys, and then one of the Cowboys gets mugged, and the referee's just staring at it, not doing anything. You know, we're tired of it. And I know every team complains about it, but I think there's something going on here. I don't know what it is, but I think that the guys were venting. It might not have been the right way to put it, but I understand them venting because I feel like there's something concrete there for them to complain about.
Dan, when we were kind of setting this topic up in our pre-show Slack, you were kind of the most moderately neutral. Do you buy that something is afoot, that, you know, that the NFL is conspiring against the Cowboys? I know Tom's not saying that, but these takes are floating around. Or do you think that they just, you know, made some mistakes and drew some penalties, and some flags were thrown and some weren't?
Yeah, no, on this topic, I'm not neutral. I'm, you know, I don't like hearing any of the whining about the officiating. You know, the problem I have with it is it deflects from all the bad football that the Cowboys played that created to this loss. I mean, yeah, I think you had Van Der Esch talking about it. Gregory had an offsides that actually cost the Cowboys 4 points, because on the very next play it was a touchdown. So I don't want them to get so fixated on the officiating that it starts to take their focus on the things that, you know, where it needs to go. And as far as officiating go, I mean, that happens all the time. There's no conspiracy against the Cowboys. I mean, we see a lot of it because that's what we're watching, but the Cowboys are ranked last because they're not disciplined enough. I mean, because they have offensive linemen shuffling around. We have, you know, Connor Williams and Lyle Collins, who have the highest per snap, you know, penalties per snap. And I mean, those guys have been benched and not played at times. So those are real issues that need to be fixed. And I don't want to hear any crying about officiating when we got bigger problems to worry about.
That's such a great point, Dan, that, you know, what a shock that the team who actually benched a player because of how often they were penalized would draw some penalties. You know, what a weird coincidence that would be. You know, what a scam the NFL is running. Sturch, I've left you for last because I feel like you're going to have the most passionate take here, at least based on Monday's episode of Jersey Boys. I'll just frame the question the way it's written here. What do you think of the Cowboys blaming officiating for Sunday's
It's
loss?
the softest thing you could possibly do as an NFL player. Like that, the problem is this, like we're just like Dan said, we're seeing this and we're complaining because that's what we're watching. We are watching the Dallas Cowboys game. You can probably go out to the Raiders and say the Raiders fans are saying the same thing, or the Chiefs or the Broncos or whoever, right? No matter what game you're watching, if you feel like you got hosed on a call, let the fans bicker. That's going to happen, right? But when it goes to the player level, when it's Leighton Vander Esch and it's DeMarcus Lawrence and it's these team leaders, I'm going to call them quote leaders because they've been around the block for a couple of years now. When it's those guys, it's playing the victim, and that's not this team. If this team is so special, like everybody keeps saying that they are, right? And there's been lapses where we're thinking like, all right, well, maybe not, right? But then the next week they'll beat the brakes off the Washington football team, right? And oh, they're special again. This is just a weird excuse. Like, how is it that the youngest guy on the team, Micah Parsons, in his post-game interview was saying, okay, you know what? We beat ourselves. We got to clean things up. We got to be better, right? But then you got DeMarcus Lawrence posting pictures and tagging the league. Like, what is that going to do? And I told Catalina this in our group chat. I said, look, no matter what we're mad at, right, we're going to get a letter from the league and say like, oh, we screwed up. Guess what? That does nothing for nobody. We don't get a win. We don't get the score changed. We don't get the result changed. It is absolutely pointless and is honestly detrimental, because if the Cowboys are going to be known as the league vocal complainers, right? What's that going to do for the next refereeing crew that's coming in there? Like, oh, these guys are big time in the NFL. They're big time in the league. If you think there's any kind of conspiracy, you better watch yourself in the Eagle game. You better watch yourself in the first round of the playoffs, because all of a sudden you're complaining to the wrong people. Do not complain to the league. The league will bite back. Okay, so you got to be careful. You want to do something, change the rules. You want to, call it a turnover first, review it, and then get it right the first time. Fine, I'm cool with that. But the fact that the players are blaming this stuff, even guys like CeeDee Lamb, I'm not a fan of that, man. Like, this is the team that's supposed to be special and supposed to be mature and handle. We've been hearing this for the last 10 years. Handle adversity, right? This is adversity. Handle it. Don't complain about it in your post game. It makes you look soft. It makes you feel like the victim, and it just, I don't know, man. It's a bad look for the Cowboys.
Big shocker here. Sturch, Dan, and Aidan are all tied for the lead so far after the first question. I'll offer my 2 cents if it isn't obvious. I'm a big Mike McCarthy guy. I think that's been made obvious throughout this season. I really hate him specifically, doing this. And I understand, people's point about the integrity of the game, and I want the call to be right. I want it to be right or wrong, however it affects the Cowboys. I want it to be the right call, not wrong. I don't know why I said that. And so, okay, McCarthy, you know what a big coaching shtick is? Control what you can control. The moment you throw away that last time out on the plus side of the 2-minute warning, you have lost control of that potential. You know the way this game works. You know better than anybody that we know how influential a challenge can be in a would-be playoff situation. And so the moment you surrender your control there, the moment you leave it up to fate. And so I'm fine if you want to have these conversations privately when you guys meet at the Star in the auditorium. You want to sit there and feel like you got robbed. Good for you. Throw a pity party, but do not do this. Sturch, you mentioned what Micah said. The best thing he said, in fact, I'm actually going to dock you points for not mentioning that, Sturch, was that he said it shouldn't have come down to that. It should not. It should not have come down to that last moment, and that's what really bothers me. You know what, Cowboys? Was the officiating flawless when you beat Washington 56-14? Is that what you're saying? That there's no issue, there's no conspiracy against the Cowboys last Sunday night when the party's going, but the moment adversity strikes, conspiracy is here, and that's the biggest thing for me. And Aidan, I put this to you because you are very, very reasonable. I tweeted this out, and I lost my cool a little bit, and I've now said this or gone on this rant on several different shows, but the NFL is so against the Cowboys that they gave them a Saturday night game this week and effectively gave them a day's worth of an advantage against whoever they're going to play in the wild card round, whether that winds up being the Arizona Cardinals or the Los Angeles Rams or the San Francisco 49ers. I know it could still be the Eagles, and it would then ultimately wash out, but they are very likely going to have a day advantage on whoever they play in the playoffs. Aidan, what kind of league hates the Cowboys if they're really doing this to them?
Yeah, I'm not really sure about the scheduling. I just think they don't want to. They want to have the Cowboys in a big spot.
Well, yeah. And to be clear, I don't think they're trying to help the Cowboys. But what I'm saying is they're clearly not going out of their way to screw over the Cowboys, which is what Twitter would have you believe.
Oh, they
could potentially be scheduled on Saturday, no?
Even if they are, whoever they play is playing on Sunday this week. If they play the Cardinals or the Rams, that team has one less day of preparation than them.
Touche.
And that's the thing. The NFL knows how valuable the Cowboys are to them. They know the ratings that the Cowboys draw. They're not. The NFL is out to get 0 teams. The NFL is in the business of making money, and tearing down the Cowboys isn't doing anything for them. It's just they know that it makes people upset with the officiating, but in general, they're not out to get anybody. So I agree with Sturch and Dan.
And RJ, whatever. It's fine.
Yeah, and you RJ. But why throw a pity party when you know that the they're not trying to destroy any franchise?
Yeah. Tom, you had something to say. It was probably going to be wrong, but what is it?
Well, Aidan actually hit upon what the real matter here that goes deeper, because I'm not here to say that the refs are to blame for the Cowboys being in any particular position. I'm here to say that officiating just is really bad across the league.
That's
We
true,
see-
though. That's true for everyone. So why
I
are
know.
the Cowboys like making themselves
But
the
okay,
victim?
okay. I want to get away from that. I want to talk about officiating, and it ties into what the point Aidan made about the Saturday game. This all comes down to money. The NFL insists on running a multi-billion-dollar enterprise using part-timers as their officials because that's all they need to have. And it's just because they don't want to pony up the tens of millions of dollars it would cost to make these full-time officials who do the games and then have a 4-day work week or so when they review video, study the rules, figure out what went wrong, and how to improve themselves. And that's just what it comes down to. It's all about being tight and getting that little bit of bump to the profit margin. They need to do something to give us a little more faith in the officials because watching games the past few years, it's like sometimes you're just going like, well, what mood are they in? And what's going on? And why is an identical play on one end of the field called and then it's reversed the other way when it's called going the other direction? Why is it different? That's a bad look for the league. It's a bad look for the sport. And gambling is getting to be bigger. And one of these days, somebody's going to start asking questions about that. And if there's anything going on or not, that's a taint that the league really needs to take steps to head off. But I'm just unhappy with their cavalier approach to officiating overall.
Your cause is noble, Tom, but it doesn't change the fact that the Cowboys themselves complaining about this was a bad look. Mm-hmm. Tony, you and Tom are on a sinking ship. Do you want to bail? I'll give you one last chance here.
I don't think the refereeing they're out to get the Dallas Cowboys. I'm just like kind of what Tom touched on as a whole. I'm just fed up with part-time officials, diva officials. I expect a certain level of quality from the referees. I don't like the sound of a coaching staff or anybody saying we have to prepare for.
Let's focus the question,
fellas. The question's about the players.
Let's go, Sturch. Sorry, Dan. Way to go, Sturch.
We all hate the officials. That's part of being a fan.
But maybe I haven't been clear enough in saying that I don't like it.
Tony, what do you think of the Cowboys blaming officiating?
I don't like anybody blaming officiating, but I'm telling you how I feel about it, right? I don't, if they can't do it, then let me do it. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, yeah, I think it's corny. I let it off with the DeMarcus Lawrence tag in the league was corny from the beginning. I thought it doesn't do anything. Like Sturch said, you're going to get a letter. I'm tired of letters. I don't want a letter. I want it to be done correctly the first time. I don't want to have a letter. I don't have to feel like, Cedric Wilson scores a touchdown. We got a chance if we got to stop. They punch a fumble out. You don't even make the call correctly on the field. That stuff frustrates me. I don't care what happened the first 58 minutes of the game. You took an opportunity off a poorly called play right then and there when they've been doing it differently the whole year. They've been leaning towards calling it a turnover, a fumble, so they can go and review at it all season. And then in that moment with the game on the line, the ref called game. And that's all that was to it right then and there. The ref called game when they've been calling it completely different the entire 17 weeks.
I could see the smoke coming out of Catalina's ears, by the way.
Yeah, that was a passionate plea, but not enough. You did beat out Tom, ultimately. As AJ says in the comment section, blaming the refs, scapegoating for the team, and not taking responsibility for your play. And that's what I personally feel like a lot of Cowboys fans have done over the last 2 days. And it seems like, if I could get some head nods, Sturch, Dan, and Aidan agree with me, that a lot of people are just caping for the Cowboys. Like, oh, they only lost for no, they've lost. They lost because they lost. They lost because the Arizona Cardinals beat them. I see Tony and Tom nodding. It's too late for you guys. Our ship is full. We got 4 seats. We're taking off. We'll see you next time.
Tom, what size is your tinfoil hat, by the way, with the whole conspiracy theories thing?
Tom, I bet you're like 7 3/8. I'm gonna guess.
He's a snapback guy. He's. I guarantee you that's not even a question at this point. My fault.
Okay. All right. So first point of debate is in the books. It was a bright bright moment for Sturch, for Dan, for Aidan. You guys with your beautiful baritone voices sounded great. Tom, Tony, you guys could run a ticket, president, vice president. I don't know who wants to be who. Y'all delegate that yourselves. We would vote for you to make a change in the world. But in this particular conversation, not your best work. So, Dan, we turn to you now. You're in second place as we enter subject number 2, subject 2 of 3, of course, on the night. I've made up all these rules that sound like we've been doing them all season long, and, that's a good job by me. But anyway, let's keep the protocol moving along. Simple question, Dan. Can the Cowboys only beat bad teams?
No.
Okay, why? Like this is an essay question.
I thought you were looking for simple. I thought you were going to go around the horn. No, I mean they haven't beaten great teams yet. I mean all the teams that have over 10 wins, they haven't beat yet. But I think they can. I mean, we've seen how well this team can play. It's unfortunate that they couldn't beat Arizona this last week because that was one of those, litmus
and by them losing, sorry, Dan, they allowed this question to exist by losing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, we know they can do it. They're just not playing at a level right now where, I mean, I don't feel good about, going into the playoffs with the way they're playing. So, but I'm not buying into that they can only beat bad teams.
Tom, Kevin offers, no, we have beat teams that will be in the playoffs this year. The Dallas Cowboys did beat the New England Patriots. That was obviously very impressive. They beat the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll see if they wind up being a playoff team. Obviously, they beat the Philadelphia Eagles, who are going to the playoffs, but they did lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. They lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They lost to the Arizona Cardinals. So where do you feel, Tom? Or how do you feel, rather?
I'm very concerned about it. I think they can beat some good competitive teams. I just don't know if they really are ready to go up against the top tier playoff teams. And that's because they put a lot of crap out there on the field last Sunday. And it's like
Tom's working here.
If you see that kind of performance, then you have to wonder, wait, was the Washington game just an aberration, or was it just everything coming together? My biggest fear is that when the Cowboys can get everything perfectly tuned up and in sync, they're unbeatable. Unfortunately, that's very hard to do, especially on a week after week basis. And we saw what happened against the Cardinals when one or two things got out of sync at the beginning, and then they never could get everything working at once. Dak was a little off to begin with, then he got better, but then the drops started showing up again, and he certainly was having a terrible time reading the field. He admitted that he was not seeing what the defense was putting out there well. He wasn't anticipating it. And, then the defense doesn't get a takeaway. And takeaways have always had a huge element of chance to them. You can't just go out and force a turnover. It doesn't work really that way, because even if you perfectly punch out a fumble, it may bounce to somebody else who recovers it for the other team. And so we saw a team that maybe can't overcome that adversity you talked about. Mm-hmm. When one thing goes wrong, they don't have a quick way to patch over and cover for it. And a couple of things were just horribly wrong, like Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard getting a combined 25 yards rushing. That's not going to cut it. And Kellen Moore didn't even try the run hardly. So Tom, I don't know.
You mentioned that the concern is when one thing goes wrong, they can't get over it, or they can't overcome it. That's why Sturch, Dan, Aidan, and I are so concerned, because not only can they not acknowledge that something went wrong against Arizona, but they want to deflect and they want to blame. They want to say, no, nothing went wrong for us. We only lost because of these external factors. Aidan, speaking of you were kind enough to whip up an incredible graphic for us. As always, Aidan on Twitter at Aidan1214. Fantastic work he does for us at Blogging the Boys. Aidan, give us a breakdown of what we're looking at here. Podcast audience, check out Blogging the Boys on social media to see this graphic. But Aidan, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I'm going to give a good, a bad, and an ugly about this graph. So the good news is that from a statistical level, Yeah, there's a drop off when the Cowboys play other playoff teams, and yeah, you see a decrease in stats, but the decrease isn't all that large. And keep in mind that when you play other good teams, naturally your stats aren't going to be as good as when you play a team like the Washington or Philly or Atlanta, any of the bad teams that the Cowboys have played this year. The bad news is that although there's not a huge drop off, a lot of these stats are being anchored by our offensive stats are being anchored by the games against the Patriots and Philadelphia, and then our defensive stats are being anchored by the game against the Chargers, which, although we count them as playoff teams, I don't think any of those are really Super Bowl teams. And so that's where we get to the ugly, where although, yeah, that drop off exists, especially against when you look at teams that have more than a 20% chance to win their division right now, meaning the Cardinals, the Chiefs, and the Buccaneers. Yeah, the Bucs, who the Cowboys have played. The Cowboys are 0-3 against those teams, and outside of the Buccaneers games, the Cowboys stats in those games are horrible. So my opinion on this, the Cowboys can beat other good teams. The only issue is I think we're now worried, can the Cowboys win 4 games in a row against good teams when, I mean, they haven't really won one against a division leader yet. So
Sturch, pretty depressing stuff from Aidan. So shout out to you, Aidan, picking up some points here, but hurting the Cowboys. Does that make you disheartened, Sturch? Is it a little bit of a look in the mirror that this team needs, that they've kind of they've circled the wagons against some teams that aren't necessarily great. They've had some nice moments against would-be contenders, but to Aidan's points, when they have faced some of the truly better teams in the NFL this year, they've lost.
Not for nothing, but when the original question was, can we only beat bad teams? I don't feel like the NFL has like an upper echelon of teams other than like Green Bay right now. Every other team,
that's a team they got to beat though.
Like, but that's one team. But I'm saying like the rest of the league is kind of on an even playing field. Like we're talking about the Cowboys struggling against good teams, right? And the stats show it. Aidan just hit it out the park with another graph. The guy's a savant, right? But like when it comes to the Cowboys and what they do against these teams, like one of our best offensive games was opening week against the Bucs, right? We're adjusting, we're doing all these things, and we're playing good football against the Bucs. Now look at the Bucs. Like they were 2 minutes and a bad decision away from losing to the Jets. That's a fact, right? So like these other teams that are in the upper echelon and their playoff teams, they've almost dropped to other teams. The Bills, they lost to the Jaguars. Like there's different examples of these teams struggling. And when the Cowboys are on the field against a quote good team, I just feel like, and Tom kind of alluded to this, when the Cowboys get behind, they do have a hard time. Like you have this hard stigma in your mind saying like it's gonna be hard for them to get not only even, but like take the lead. When the Cowboys get a lead, I feel like the Cowboys are just they're the most unbeatable team in the league. If they have the lead, they can pad it and do their thing and play their offensive game, and Kellen Moore's rolling and all this stuff. But when they face adversity this year, it's felt like this team has dragged their feet a little bit. So with Aidan's with his chart and everything that, the drop off isn't crazy, but I also think the teams that they're playing aren't all that great. So I think every team has their holes. And I'm not as worried, even if I see a discrepancy in some, like there was one where it was like penalty yards, it was like 5. So you're talking like 1 offsides penalty. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not the end of the world. The points per game, I think, is a little more alarming. That's a touchdown difference, when it comes to good teams and bad teams, or playoff teams and non-playoff teams. That's the only one that really sticks out at me. Everything else is literally like they're actually, relatively similar. The win-loss record, obviously. Am I confident that they can go in right now as it stands? I'll get more into that when we get into the next week's game, because I think they need to build some momentum.
Tony, Tom mentioned this, and Sturch kind of agreed. And not that they are fans of this, but if everything goes well for the Cowboys, they can win. Welcome to the NFL. Like, no, like you are never going to have that vacuum where everything is perfect, everything is hunky-dory, you are going to face adversity. It might be an official, it might be a moment, it might be, weather, it might be Aaron Rodgers. You just do not know. So does it trouble you that, if the wind is blowing the wrong direction, the Cowboys might not be able to withstand that, level of adversity, which we thought they could. We thought they could do that because they went to Minnesota and won without Dak. We were fooled a little bit.
That Minnesota game to me is a little bit of an outlier, and I think that's why this Arizona game was so important, was for conversations like this, because to answer the original question, I think the Cowboys can beat anybody any given Sunday, and that's not just cliche. I truly, I think we all agree they have the talent to play and hang with anybody. But I think this Arizona game was that game that we needed to see that they could go out there and put out a quality game against a quality football team. And Arizona was playing with a few key players out. So it looked like it was an advantageous game to say, on paper, Arizona is definitely a playoff team. They may not have a full deck, but if we go out there and assert our dominance a little bit, I think we'd feel good about the fact that the last month against, inferior talent wasn't just that. And I think, looking at this team in this season in its entirety and whole, you don't feel so confident. They didn't do much for confidence purposes when it comes to playing a quality opponent. I mean, going into, like I said, I think I mentioned on the 2-minute warning podcast, like this game was more important to me just for the simple fact of like, okay, let's go out there and confirm our priors. Like I do believe this is a good team that can beat anybody. And they didn't do that. And, and like I said, it kind of, you could talk about the refs, you can talk about execution, but the bottom line is whenever it feels like it's got to be a big game or a game of some type of importance, if things don't go perfectly well, like you said, things got to bounce correctly. They got to go out and score on the first drive. The defense got to have a turnover. It's like if things don't go exactly how they need it to, you see a snowball effect, and then they have a really tough time of getting out of that rut.
That sucks. I would award you more points, Tony, but you made me feel badly. So it is what it is. Nice silver cup you're drinking out of there. It would be nice if it was silver and blue Kool-Aid type thing. Whatever. Anyway, okay. Well, that was a depressing conversation. So let's fight. Let's upset one another. Let's instigate. Really, that's my job here. So as it currently stands, just so everyone is aware, Sturch is in first place in our point total here on our roundtable for January 4th. First one of the new year. So very important title at stake here tonight. Aidan in second place. Tom, you had scratched and clawed all the way up to third place, but I just decided that Dan deserved it more. So Dan now sitting at third. Tom, you were in fourth. Tony, first answer really set you back. I mean, you got a long way to go here coming up in topic number 3.
I'm impressed by how Dan could climb so much, basically saying nothing. That's a good job, Dan.
Well, we have a controversial subject at hand. Dan and Tom are on opposing sides. And just so everyone is aware, this is where things stand entering the final question. But I'm going to put you into the teams that you sort of assigned yourselves to be when I told you this was the topic that we were going to discuss. So arguing for one cause is myself, although I'm not really a part of this. Aidan is on this team. We have Tony on this team. And we have Tom on this team. So it is Aidan, Tony, and Tom against Dan and Sturch, team D and D. Is that correct? You all believe that I get this right? Everyone, I'm good here. Tom, you're expressing hesitancy, but you're on mute, so we don't know what you're saying. You're still on mute, Tom. Great job.
Good point, Tom.
I thought I was on a 2-man team on this, so I'm a little confused.
You were not. You must not have read Dan's message. That's okay.
I think he is. I think he's with Sturch.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed this up. In fact, Dan, you get to go in Tony's spot because you saved me. So Aidan, Dan, and Tony versus Tom and Sturch on this very divisive subject. However you feel, let us know because there are going to be some opinions. Tony, I'll start with you. Should the Cowboys rest or play their starters on Saturday night against the Philadelphia Eagles? Now, to be clear, when the Cowboys and Eagles kick off, neither team will know their playoff fate. There are 9 different permutations that the NFC could have as far as the playoff picture is concerned. There's one of those permutations where the Cowboys are the 2 seed. One, where they are the 3 seed. Everything else basically sees them as the 4 seed. Aidan, you can correct me if I'm wrong there. With various opponents, whether it's the Cardinals or the Rams as the wild card team. But so ultimately, it is extremely likely, more likely than not, that the Cowboys will be the 4 seed, but maybe you don't even care about that. So Tony, Aidan, Dan, you are all team rest. Make your case, Tony Catalina.
To me, I'm thinking next week. I'm thinking the playoffs. That's the number one thing. We were talking last week if we should even play Tyron Smith against Arizona because we want to get him ready for the playoffs. And now we got Ezekiel Elliott coming out saying he's gonna play, and Mike McCarthy saying they're gonna play, and Jerry Jones says they're gonna play, and I'm just like, play for what? The 6% chance you might not be the 4 seed. There's a 94% chance based on all the numbers ran that you're going to be in the 4 seed. You're probably going to have to see this Arizona team again, and these are the most likely scenarios. So do you want to beat the Philadelphia Eagles to get a 12th win in a 17-game season, or do you want to, pride points to beat the Eagles? They're already locked into the playoff seeding themselves. I mean, they're in the playoffs. We're in the playoffs. I would much rather have all my horses healthy, fresh, getting a week off, ready to play whoever it is. And if it's Arizona again, good, because I think everyone's got a little bad taste in their mouth about this last game. So to me, this is I don't see the risk and reward being that advantageous for this team, because if we go out there and it's Philadelphia, it's cold, it's it's a night game, and Dak gets hurt, and then he has to now we're playing the iffy game about wild card. How are we going to feel about that? And I know you shouldn't be like, oh, don't worry about the injuries, but the fact in the matter is it's out there. It's a possibility, but
Michael Gallup just tore his ACL catching a touchdown, Tony.
It just tore his ACL. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. And that game meant a lot more than this one is about to be played. So it just, I don't feel comfortable. I understand that, you fight and it's the division and you want to have a chance to, but you play the percentages, you understand what's more important. And the whole goal was to make it to the dance. And now we're a week short of the dance and you want to start messing with fate, messing with things. I say rest them and let's get us ready for the wild card weekend.
I don't even think it's messing with fate, Tony. I think, the dance is here. You ever been in a quinceañera? You ever had to do a dance at an event? You ever been in was it cotillion? I mean, you ever had to do something like that and you practice it a bunch of times and all of a sudden they're like, did you just dance, Tony? Is that what did you just
a little bit.
Entire camera shook.
You know what? Tony is now in first place. He has climbed all the way up so far tonight. But it would be like, let's not wear the shoes we've been practicing in. You know what I mean? Let's just mirror and flip the the routine for no reason. I do want to get to a couple of our super chats. F Kit Crutch says game is meaningless since the 1 seed is not available. In case anyone's unaware, the Green Bay Packers have already taken the 1 seed. Chris gives us a super chat. Thank you, Chris. Says we need a win for morale going into the playoffs. Dan, that is the argument, but I do also want to set you up with this because Tony set up the point that it's going to be cold. Caleb Swanson says, I said this the other day. I definitely don't really think it's worth risking injury. McCarthy saying he wants them to play in the cold is the only thing that makes some sense. Again, the Cowboys might have to travel to the 1 seed Green Bay Packers, potentially in the divisional round. So Dan, you are team rest. Does the cold, does any of that, carry any kind of merit to you?
Yeah. I mean, there's, without abandoning my team, I mean, there's value for certain players. I mean, you're asking me that question. I'm going to answer that.
And hang on. Sorry, Dan. To be clear, that we have divided this into 2 teams, but there is room for play them a series, play them a quarter. There is, it isn't, one extreme or the other. So if that's your point, Dan, I agree with you.
Yeah. I mean, so I hear people say that the Cowboys have not, earned a right to rest. And I honestly think that the Cowboys have not earned the right to play. I think they have played themselves into a situation to where now they have to think about, all right, what's the best play from here? And, we don't want to see any major injuries. There's no way that, DeMarcus Lawrence isn't seeing the field. I'm not putting Tyron Smith out there. I'm not playing Dak. And you might not agree with this one, but I have hesitancy about playing Micah Parsons. I do not want to lose any key players for the game that counts. So, I mean, I would rather see Kelvin Joseph get some reps out there,
Yeah, let's let Luke Gifford go ball out in Philly.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's too risky. If something happened to Dak, if he re-injured his calf in this game, because the footing wasn't great. We would never hear the end of it. It's all we would talk about the entire offseason. Everybody would want McCarthy fired, and it's just too risky for me.
Okay, Tom, I'm gonna Sturch. I'm gonna save you for last because I know you're fired up, and I want to let this stew a little bit. Tom, we've got a comment from Casey Hammond. My dog's barking in the background. Bears team rest for what it's worth. Casey Hammond says, our offense isn't right. I get the hesitancy of playing them and them still not getting it right, or God forbid losing to the Eagles, but you've got to try to fix the problem in a real game situation. So Tom, you are team play, but I want you to answer it this way. And we're going to bounce around a little bit here because this is, again, a subject with many layers. The common answer here from team play, wrong people like you and Sturch is, well, we need to get some positive momentum. We need this. Cool. Like, if we're living in a world of the most optimistic thing and that thing only is the result, then fine, I'm down with this. But to Casey's point, what if they don't get it right? Like, what if you say I'm team play and they go out and the offense is terrible again? Do you now have negative momentum? Like what are your thoughts, Tom?
I don't look at it as momentum. I look at it as trying to get things working right. Do you want them to go into the game with the same plays, the same strategy, everything that they had at the end of the Cardinals game? Do you want to rely on just fixing things in practice? I think the team has to have some proof in a real game situation under live fire, so to speak, to figure out if they can actually do this or not. And the Eagles are a good team to do it because, let's face it, if you ask Siri who is a team that can only beat bad teams, they will answer the Philadelphia Eagles right now because they have not beaten.
We have some Android users. Don't isolate that crowd, Tom.
Okay, well, all right. You can ask Alexa too. That's fine. So it's, it just, I don't see how you could sit after that performance against Arizona and say, okay, we'll just rest everybody because everything's fine. It's not fine. You've got to go out and see if you've got the answers. Now, if they go out and lay an egg against the Eagles, then it may just be a real bitter one and done experience in the playoffs, and there's nothing they can do about that. But I think if you don't play your starters, at least till you get things where you feel like you need to have them, we're also going to see a one and done. Because if you rested everybody primarily for this game, even after a series or two or whatever, I think they're just going to get chewed up in the wild card round. I think they've got to get these people out there. They've got to work them some. They've got to see if they can do their assignments, if they can get some rhythm going on the offense, if the defense can get some stops, and Jalen Hurts is not a bad guy to try to simulate stopping Kyler Murray with, because he's also a mobile quarterback who can hurt you with his legs.
So, Aidan, Tom said two things that I disagree with theoretically. One, first of all, Tom has fallen to last. But second of all, Tom mentioned Jalen Hurts. Oh, you can simulate whatever, Kyler Murray against him. I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to play. Like, Philly has even less incentive to play their starters than the Cowboys do. So why are you going to risk this in general against them? Baylor Kim brings this up. This is a reality of our current world. Baylor Kim says, what scares me is that Philly has like 20 players with COVID, and they will probably be cleared because they are asymptomatic, but will still have COVID. You never know what that world is going to be. This is a world where you've got to have all of your guys available. Donnie King says, do you trust the Eagles' second and third stringers enough to think they won't play dirty against Dallas' second and third stringers? God. I don't buy that as a real data point either, but it's a question worth asking out loud. Sturch, you will wait your turn. So Aidan, when you factor all that in, like I would have actually less hesitancy about playing them if the Cowboys were playing the Giants or Washington. But because Philly is also resting their starters, theoretically, Nick Sirianni is kind of, rode the fence so far this week on that subject. That is, fine. Just everybody wave the white flag and we'll see you next week. Good luck against the Buccaneers, Eagles, but make your case.
Exactly. I don't care if the Eagles are playing all 22 of their starters. I don't care if the Eagles sign people off the street and have them playing I want the Cowboys starters to get 0 snaps. I'm not even, let's try out a couple series. I don't want them touching the field this week. We've touched a lot about injuries. I did a little digging into it today.
Oh, let's go. Body these people, Aidan.
In an average NFL week, there are 85 injuries, not
Oh.
meaning that 85 people get like eliminated for the season or even that they miss next week, but 85 people on average pop up on the practice report. That comes out to your team in a given week has a 7% chance that 0 people will pop up on the injury report. Are we really going to play our starters in a meaningless game when there's a 93% chance that we're not going to have an injury pop up? And Tom touched a lot of this is we need to see a prove it game or build some momentum, however you want to phrase it. In my opinion, the 3 biggest prove it games for the Cowboys this year have been Vikings, the Atlanta game, and then the Washington game. That was the biggest, wow, these Cowboys proved something this week. All 3 weeks after that, they lost. So after 3 prove it games, the Cowboys are 0-3. And that's under the assumption that even if you play your starters, you're going to win this game. Right now, I think Vegas assumes that the Cowboys are going to play their starters based on what McCarthy says. They're giving us a 75% chance to win the game. Sure, that's cool, but that means there's a 25% chance you lose it. And then what happens to your momentum? It's all gone. So to me, there's just no reason to play your starters.
Along those lines, if we all think back to the last time Dallas was in this situation, it was what was then 17 of the 2018 season. On the road in New York, Jason Garrett elected to play most of the Cowboys starters, didn't play Zeke Elliott, and they almost lost that game to a really bad Giants team. If not for an amazing throw from Dak Prescott to Cole Beasley at the very end, they lose that game. And who knows if I don't, but if somebody believes momentum's a real thing, if they had lost to the withering New York Giants before hosting the Seattle Seahawks, I mean, I don't know. Maybe that game goes differently. Now, Sturch, you will have your moment. Donnie even said Dave is getting antsy to go off. Let Dave have the floor. Aidan, Michael says that he completely disagrees with you. But Tony, before we throw it to Aidan, I want to throw it to you so you can defend this point. Casey says, I hearkened back to a few weeks ago about wanting to beat the Eagles out of disrespect. This was your point, Tony, here on the roundtable. What happened to that killer instinct? Let's snuff our division rivals' momentum headed to the postseason. Tony.
Let me be clear about the disrespect I have for the Eagles. I care so little about beating them because they're not like they're not something I'm worried about. Do you think they're getting out of the first round? They're gonna get smoked by the 2 seed as the 7 seed. What is the killer instinct? Are we gonna clap if Micah Parsons, sacks Gardner Minshew to get the rookie record? Like, are we gonna Diggs gets another pick off of Minshew? Like, Amari Cooper smokes the 3rd cornerback on the Eagles. If they don't play anybody, what are we playing for pride points? Is anybody gonna sit here and be like, oh, we're back. We beat the 2nd and 3rd string Eagles by 21 points. Who cares? My utter disrespect is I don't care about the Eagles. This game doesn't mean anything but pride points. You want a cookie? I don't care. And to me, that's the bottom line. We're in the playoffs. If there was a legitimate chance for us to like increase and go to the 2 seed or the 3 seed, like I'm all in. But like we had that chance last week and we blew it. So this week, I don't care about the Eagles.
Yeah, I think, Dan, it was your point that the Cowboys have not earned the right to play in this game. That's Tony's point. They blew the opportunity to flex their muscles. They had that chance and they already blew it. All right, Sturch, you have been patient long enough. Should the Dallas Cowboys rest or play their starters on Saturday night?
Aidan, what is the percentage of the Dallas Cowboys moving up to any other seed besides the 4?
It's like, based on where you go, it's 6 to 10.
6 to 10%.
Very low.
Okay, what is the percentage of guys getting hurt and popping up on the injury list, as you just pointed out?
93%.
Oh, so another 7%. 7 is the key number here, bro. 7 is the
7% you don't get injured. You've had 0.
Please. You know what? Everybody calm.
Sturch is abandoning the mathematical.
Enough is enough with this. What if we get hurt stuff? This is the NFL, ladies and gentlemen. They're guys, and as Aidan just pointed out, guys get hurt every week, right? If we're sitting here worried about injuries right now in week 18, then you guys are soft, and there's nothing else to say about that particular thing. Okay, you're worried about injuries. Guess what? The NFL, those guys, those players, Zeke, DeMarcus Lawrence, Dak Prescott, they're not worried about injuries. They want to go out there and play. Okay, why? Because this game is not meaningless. I don't know what world you guys are living in, that the reason why the NFL put the Dallas Cowboys on Saturday night is to ensure that they're playing for something. Because if they would have already known the results of the other games, then you can rest your starters and say, we can't go anywhere, forget it, right? But they put them on Saturday night in prime time. The Cowboys have a chance to beat the brakes off, I don't care who. It could be us 6 lining up on the offensive line for the Philadelphia Eagles. I don't care. If you have a smidge to move up to the 3rd or the 2nd seed based on other things that happen on Sunday, you take that chance. You don't sit there and say, well, if we lose 2 games in a row to end the season, we'll be fine because it's the playoffs the next week. Are you guys really that confident that the playoffs are here? So we're just going to all of a sudden turn on the switch? We need to play, and we need to play well. I don't care who it's against. Just like when we beat Washington and we beat Atlanta and we beat all these bad teams, right? These guys are all NFL players, right? And we beat the brakes off them. We got to do it again. You cannot back into the playoffs this year when the NFC is so loaded. You have to have momentum going into the following week. You just have to. And I know you guys don't believe in momentum. If you don't want to call it momentum, don't call it momentum. Call it camaraderie. Call it team vibes. Guys, we all sniffed each other a little bit too much going into that Arizona game. Everybody in Cowboys Nation was calling for a 15-point win, 14-point win over the Arizona Cardinals. They humbled us. So now it's time for us to humble the Eagles, because the Eagles are now feeling themselves. We're going to rest our starters. Good, because when you're the 7 seed, you can't go anywhere, and you're going to get the brakes beat off you by Tom Brady. That's fine. It doesn't matter. Or you can potentially get the brakes beat off you again by us being the 2 seed. That is a possibility, and because there's a smidge of possibilities that this Dallas Cowboys team can move in the seedings, you take it. You go out there and you win the game on Saturday night. Enough is enough, and for God's sakes, as the girls say it best on the Blogging Boys podcast network, Eagles for never. This is the Philadelphia Eagles. If you're going to sit there and say, we don't care about a game against the Philadelphia Eagles, we just watched the Eagles tank last year and not give an ounce of a crap about going to the playoffs, right? And put the Washington football team in because they decided not to show up. The Cowboys need to show up. They need to humble these little, I'm going to pump the brakes because I was about to hit it home. They need to go out there. They need to beat up on the Philadelphia Eagles. They need to have the Eagles limp into the playoffs, because then, again, their season's over. Our season continues. If you guys think that you can go out of the Arizona game and say, let's let them sit in that one. Tony, you said that before. Let's let them sit in that feeling. No, you don't want that. Why would you want to sit there and pretend that the last meaningful game you played was a loss against Arizona? Go out there and beat up on the Eagles, and then you can go into the playoffs and say, you know what? We didn't back in. We beat up on the Eagles, and now we're going to beat up on our next opponent because we're feeling ourselves again. And I'm not saying it happens every time, right? I'm not saying that just like the Washington football team game. After that game, we're like, oh, shit, bing bong. Everybody's having a good time, right? We're all doing sounds of the sidelines, and then we just come out flat because we are feeling ourselves. We need to go out there. We need to beat the Eagles. We need to go into the playoffs a little bit ahead of ourselves and not go in there saying, well, the last time we played all our starters, we looked like utter crap against the Arizona Cardinals. I want them to say the last time we had our starters out there, we beat up on the 3rd string Eagles because they decided, because, they think they're just too good to play this game because it might be a little cold for them. Give me a break, dude. The Cowboys need to win this game. They need to go into the playoffs 12-5. They can potentially get the 2, the 3, the 4. It doesn't matter. Get a win in week 18.
So Sturch, I have a few things, and Tony, I know you're itching to get back in the ring here. Sturch, first of all, you've said several times they need to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the point that Tony, Dan, Aidan, and I would have is that they will not be beating the Philadelphia Eagles. That's not who they would be playing on Saturday night. They are not playing this team.
I don't care if it's the Jacksonville Jaguars. Beat the Jaguars.
But like you're saying you want to like inflict like humiliation. Like they're not, like they don't have that capability right now.
Make them regret it. Make them regret it the next week. Like, man, we should have really.
But again, like what could they possibly regret? Like again, so you asked Aidan for percentages. Aidan, what is the highest percent of success in like math? Like the highest numerical percentage you can have? What is it?
100%.
100, Bob.
Okay, so they are in like the thing they are giving 100% to. You can never ever give 100% certainty to anything, but is that they are going to be as ready as possible for their playoff game. And by playing in this game against the team that is again isolating their important players, you are not only jeopardizing your 100% probability here. It's not even a probability; it's a certainty. But you are doing it for nothing. Like they're not playing anything that is worth losing. Like that's the theoretical principle here. Plus, as F. Kit Crutch says, like what you said, Sturch, is awesome. Like if this was a movie, like hurrah, great job. Like Bradley Cooper's playing Sturch, and like this was a great moment. But like we don't know how this goes. F. Kit Crutch says, "Who says we beat up on the Eagles though?" Like, so what if you give this speech and they lose? So like, how do you feel about that?
I feel just as crappy as I feel right now about the Cowboys.
No, you feel worse because you made it a big deal against their
back
C
into
team.
the playoffs. I don't care who it is. 2 straight losses going into the playoffs. I don't feel good at all.
But Aidan, what is less than 2? What number is less than 2?
1, Bob.
Okay, so one loss going into the playoffs, like you're saying, you don't want to have this Cardinals loss fester, is far more preferable than 2 straight losses in a row. Plus, Sturch, I want to ask you a question that is somewhat related to this, but you have been Ezekiel Elliott's biggest champion this season. Sure. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I'm an apologist. Absolutely.
Okay, now would you agree that Zeke has not necessarily been a great player for the Cowboys as of late?
He's been hobbled, yeah.
Okay, so he's been hobbled. So his biggest issue, you would say, has been injury, right? Is that fair to say?
Sure.
So would it not have been wise of the Cowboys to rest Ezekiel Elliott over the last couple of weeks in effort to have him be as healthy as possible for the playoffs, as opposed to now being hobbled and therefore being a limited version of the player you believe him to be? Because they had that opportunity and they blew it. They blew it for pride, and Zeke picked up 86 more yards over the next 3 games. Was that worth it, or would you rather have a healthy Zeke?
Well, not for nothing, but this week coming up, if they win the game, which, again, all signs point to whoever they put out there, they should win the game, right? There is a logical, legitimate chance you can move a seed, right? You could – last week, you guys just said, oh, Michael Gallup tore his ACL doing – guys, then fine. When we won the division, then fine. Then you rest for the rest of the year.
I want you to answer the Zeke point, because the Cowboys could have put him on ice after the New Orleans game. They could have put him on ice and got him ready. In that time at Washington, 12 carries, 45 yards.
I'll tell you exactly.
New York, 16 carries, 52 yards. Aware. Against Washington, 9 carries, 37 yards. Last week, 9 carries, 16 yards. Would you rather are you happy to have had all of that, or would you rather have Zeke be totally healthy entering the playoff game against Arizona or the Rams or the 49ers or the Eagles?
Ezekiel Elliott is a completely different case, man. Here's the thing.
But that's what we're trying to preserve that. We don't want this situation to unfold again.
Yeah, but you have to understand something. Ezekiel Elliott is playing in these games, these last couple games, let's just call it 3 games, 4 games, right? And including this one, because he says, oh, I'm playing, right? He's playing this because of his price tag. You're not just going to sit Ezekiel Elliott. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That's not,
Tony, let's have you answer the question, Tony. Would you have rather had Zeke rest the last 3 weeks?
That's a no-brainer.
Well, then, but that's the no-brainer that you're talking about here. Is this? Is it not, Tony?
You're saying all starter. You're like, Dak. Oh man, Dak finally gets his legs under him the last 2 weeks, and you want to stop all momentum and say, no, hold on.
You think Dak has his legs under him over the last 2 weeks?
Yes, I just said that.
Okay, Tony, Paisan, tap in.
Listen, I heard Zeke's comments today, and Zeke was talking about, I'm playing in the game, but he didn't say I'm playing in the game to win the game. I love Zeke is one of my favorite players. I named my dog after him, right? But he literally said, I'm playing this game because I want to hit that milestone of 1,000 yards. They're not even thinking about winning the football game, because the football game is like, it's mundane. It's the secondary to the fact that, they want to go out there and build this, imaginary, momentum thing. It's not real. I don't want Tyron Smith to get hurt. So if Tyron Smith isn't out there playing, like, okay,
Tyron Smith just got back, so that's fine. You want to rest Tyron Smith because he just got back? Fine. That makes sense.
Zeke's got a brace on his knee bigger than my stomach.
Level of getting, or same odds of getting hurt as any other players Aidan just mentioned.
That's not true, though. Tyron Big Tree fall hard. Every time that guy hits the ground, he gets hurt.
It is totally true. How can you measure the likelihood of one player getting hurt versus another? It is the same.
What?
I mean,
what?
Aidan, let's come in here. What? Actually, Sturch, what if Micah Parsons got hurt in this game?
Then that sucks.
Are you happy? Like, do you feel proud that you played him against Gardner Minshew?
Wondering about guys getting hurt? Like, what are we talking about here? We're talking about that. Oh, what if Trayvon Diggs pulls up lame? Well, that sucks.
That's the whole point,
man.
That's Aidan.
He can also come up lane. He can also come up lane in the first play of the wild card game. That's
at least in your playing for an actual
for the one play. Thank God.
He could come up lame in practice, folks.
That's what I'm saying.
Everybody acts like that these people are immune from injury unless they're playing in the game.
All I'm saying is you can't. My biggest thing out of all this, and I can put a bow on it for my argument at least. I just don't like what I saw in the Arizona game. And the only way to make me as a fan, as somebody who covers the team, right, the only way to make me feel good about going against the Cardinals again or the Rams or whoever the heck is the opponent, right, the only way to make me feel good is to see this team go out there and play the game because they want to win the game. They have a chance. They know they have a chance. Mike McCarthy is telling them they have a chance to move up and better their odds and have another home game if they are the 2 seed and they win. And guess what? They get to host again, right? There is a chance. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying that the probability, everybody knows the percentages, likely not to happen, right? I just want them to go out there and win the game because they know that things could change. They always talk about control what you can control. This is what they can control. Go win the game.
Aidan, if the Cowboys beat the Eagles on Sunday, do they get a win against the Arizona Cardinals?
I mean,
you can't chase ghosts in this game. But Aidan,
so are we losing regardless?
Here's my thing. Assuming that, I think, assuming complete health, whether they play their stars or don't, no matter what happens in Week 18, doesn't impact the first round of the wild card. So why are you taking that chance? It's also, and I think here's the difference. At least I don't want to speak for anybody here. All of us have a bitter taste in our mouth after the Arizona game, but I'd rather get rid of that taste by playing a fully healthy Cowboys team and beating the Cardinals in the first round of the playoffs, rather than getting the taste out of my mouth by beating the Eagles. I think another thing that we're ignoring right now, the Cowboys aren't walking in the NFC with the best offense. The Cowboys might be walking in the NFC with the best defense. That's debatable. The Cowboys are walking into the NFC playoffs right now with the most healthy team. Why would you risk that? Because the Packers are dealing with injuries. The Bucks are every NFC team is dealing with injuries. Outside of Michael Gallup, we have a relatively fully healthy team.
Dan.
Yeah, everyone's talking about, the risk of injury, but another thing we're not mentioning is the added value of rest, and giving these guys extra time to rest. And honestly, too, and Tom mentioned this earlier about we want to get some things right. It would be nice if we can get some things right. That would be the only value of playing, is to get some things right. But to me,
that's not Dan. That's not a guaranteed property.
Right, it's not. But that would be the goal. Trying to me, what for the Cowboys to get right is, I think that if you give Dak's calf some extra rest, and because I think Prescott's it. If he goes out there in a playoff game and he knows there's no game tomorrow, this is it. He's going to keep just giving it all. He's not going to be backing off of his calf at all. I think we know the Cowboys can play at that level. They don't need to go out there and prove anything. We've seen it. And if McCarthy believes in his team, and everyone keeps saying, we believe in our players and we have the confidence, we'll prove it by not going out there and playing and just resting, rather than going out there and trying to get some mojo back. So
don't you think that kind of paints a bad picture, though? Don't you think that you know what? We don't need to go out there.
No, because they earned this. That's why
they earned this. But that game against the Arizona Cardinals, you think they earned this?
I think they mathematically earned this. They earned this right, and they're in a situation where they have nothing to gain. They
have 2 seeds to gain, man.
They don't. That's like saying you could hit the lotto, and I hope all of you do. But you're not going to throw your life savings at it because you think that you can, and because you theoretically have a possibility of doing so.
I don't know. I've heard it for years that these guys control what you can control. Okay, then control this win. And then if you can't control the games that happen on Sunday, then you're the 4 seed and you go play whoever. That's it.
I'm just looking forward to, if the Cowboys rest all their starters or most of their starters for most of the game, and then go out and lose to the Arizona Cardinals, how everyone is going to be screaming for Mike McCarthy's head for playing it that way. The only thing that matters is whether you win or lose. And my concern, it's not momentum, because anything that can change 180 degrees on one play is not very real. My concern is knowing if you figured anything out. So do you want to take all of the things they've tried to fix this week after losing to the Arizona Cardinals and wait until they play in the playoffs to find out if they fixed it? or roll them out and find out if they've got it fixed or if they need to go back to the drawing board. I can't see going in and not playing at least a first half to find out if things are working better, and then thinking you're going to waltz into the playoffs and get a win over a team that just showed it had all the answers for you most of the game. I don't get it. I just no. I don't see how you can do that and think you're really going to carry that forward as a successful strategy in the wild card round.
Sturch, I have 2 yes or no questions for you because I want to get to Tony. Sure. 1, so you believe they should play the entire game? Yes or no?
Just get the win, man.
No, that's not the question. Yes or no? So you should you should treat it as a regular game then, like
yes.
until you.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the first yes or no. I actually legitimately don't know the answer to this. Yes or no? You believe every team in the NFL should play all of their starters through every single preseason game?
No.
That's interesting because this is kind of the same.
You're not comparing the preseason to the playoffs, are you?
This is kind of the same. It's a similar sort of thing. Now, Tony, I want to put something towards you. Dan did a great job of bringing up something we weren't considering in terms of the merits of rest, the benefit of rest, and what it can provide. Another potential benefit we haven't considered, and you actually talked about the Minnesota game a little while ago, is what if I think the Eagles right now are, and this irks me to say, are playing this correctly. Nick Sirianni is taking all of the pressure off the Eagles. We're not going to, we're probably not going to play anybody. We have everybody on COVID list, so if they win, it's holy crap. They pulled this win off the Cowboys who, were playing their starters because they were trying to chase momentum or whatever. What if the Cowboys did the same thing, Tony? What if they said today, tomorrow, whatever, we're resting Dak, we're resting Zeke, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And they go out and they win. I mean, remember what Mike McCarthy did with Matt Flynn in week 17 of 2011. I realized the Packers lost their first playoff game, that season, but it was an incredible thing that he did that and that they did that with all their reserves because they had already clinched the 1 seed. I mean, there is a potential benefit to the Cowboys, like you talked about, and like Aidan talked about the Minnesota game, to winning without their starters, albeit without Philly starters on the other side.
To me, I don't. My fundamental thing here is I don't value the risk that comes with the possibility of moving up on a 6% chance here. I think you had a great analogy. It's yeah, I have a chance to win the Powerball, but I'm not going to put every dollar I own into it. There's I'm going to give it a fighting shot, maybe a $2 ticket, but I'm not going to put all my money into it.
$2, Tony, throw a 20 on this. Jeez, I mean, have some respect.
Dog you.
But at the end of the day, it's the risk doesn't the reward isn't there.
It's not worth. Yeah,
I get it. All right. You know what?
Sturch, that's the thing. Nobody's denying there's a reward. None of us are denying that. But you are denying the risk, or you're outright throwing it out the window, and that's a little irresponsible.
Throwing it out the window. I just believe that that these guys are professionals, and if they're not hurt right now, they want to play. They want to get out there and play and try to right the wrongs now. And look, I could be
because they're chasing the moment right now. They're not thinking rationally. They're not thinking objectively.
I have a question I want to ask for RJ.
Oh,
do you seriously?
Tom, well done. Okay, all right.
Do you seriously think that Nick Sirianni is going to just rest most of his roster?
100%.
Okay.
100%.
Do you think the league is not going to have a few words for him after they just moved this to a primetime game on Saturday?
Okay, if I'm Nick Sirianni, okay, send me the $500,000.
Get a letter right after the letter we get for the last call.
I mean, I don't think Nick Sirianni is at all concerned by this.
Okay, well, if I kind of want to see it, and if the Eagles roll out their backups, then maybe after series or two, the Cowboys can roll out their backups. If that's all they're going to be up against, then there's some validity in the argument.
Tony, Tony had his hand raised. Tom, let's respect the process a little bit around here.
Okay.
I mean, Mike McCarthy said it. He said he's been in this scenario and he's done it both ways, and he's lost both in both ways. So he's played players and lost, and he's rested players and he's lost. He has a pulse of the team. So I understand if they think he should go out there and play. I'm just looking at this game in totality. Do we think anything we do against the second and third string Philadelphia Eagles offensively is going to make us feel great going into Arizona? Because I'm not going to sit here and pretend, because
that's us. Make us feel good.
But at the end of the day, so Dak Prescott burns the fourth corner. Yeah, like we went over the top on him with Amari Cooper. He's going to put that in the bank. We put 56 on the Washington football team and then lost against the Cardinals. And so it's just like
in a game of significance to that point,
right.
Tony.
And if we won this Arizona game, I would 100% say play the starters because there's actual tangible things that matter with the victory if we won the Arizona game. I said this on our 2-minute podcast. By losing this game, we decided what this game's value was. And this game's value isn't of much at this point in time because of that.
To be clear, the podcast is longer than 2 minutes. It's called the 2-minute warning, is what Tony said. Horrible advertising job.
About 35, 40.
Yeah. Dan, you are one of our resident historians at Blogging the Boys. Do you remember how many passes Dak Prescott threw in the 2016 regular season finale at Philadelphia? This was the game with Tony Romo's last touchdown pass to Terrence Williams, I remember. But do you remember how many passes Dak Prescott threw?
1.
Wrong. Does anybody else want to guess?
3.
Anybody else? That's also wrong.
7.
0.
Anybody else?
9.
I think it's like 14. I think you're trying to make a point here.
I'm not. Well, I am, but it wasn't that. It was 8. Dak Prescott threw 8 passes at Philadelphia that day. Does anybody know how many completions he had?
5.
Wrong.
Damn.
4.
Yes. Congratulations to you, Tony. Moving on up. All right. Does anybody want to guess how many yards Dak threw for that day?
$126.
4 completions.
Bombs, all of them.
Dak Prescott in the 2016 regular season finale at Philadelphia when the Dallas Cowboys had locked up the number 1 seed. We all remember the game very well. Again, Tony Romo's last game ever. He was 4 for 8 for 37 yards. Dan, did that help Dak Prescott and the Cowboys 2 weeks later against the Green Bay Packers in the divisional round?
That's not fair.
No.
They had the 1 seed locked. Then you have no reason to play.
No, they could have humiliated their opponents. They could have blasted them out. These are professionals. They get paid to play, Sturch. How is it different?
It's different because they had the 1 seed locked. This game you can actually improve your stuff.
And based on your argument, RJ, they basically rested the starters and protected them the whole game, so that didn't work.
But they also played them. They didn't rest them entirely. In fact, Sturch, I'll throw it to you because I mentioned this game a little while ago. I mentioned the 2018 season when the Cowboys went to New York for the season finale. You were there.
1 knee equals 2 feet.
Great. Oh, great job. So Zeke rested in that game. Do you remember how many carries Ezekiel Elliott had the next week in the wild card round against the Seattle Seahawks?
Probably like 26, 27.
Does anybody else have a guess? Sturch had 2 guesses, so that was kind of cheating.
Sorry. Give a range.
Nobody? All right, I'm going to save us some time. The next week, remember, Zeke Elliott led the NFL in rushing, and Cowboys had nothing to play for, and Jason Garrett rested him. He didn't rest anybody else on offense, or he did, but still, Zeke was kind of the focal point of that. Zeke Elliott did not play in the game that you were at, Sturch. So Jason Garrett preserved rest or prioritized rest. The next week against the Seattle Seahawks, Zeke Elliott had 26 carries for 137 yards and a touchdown. Was a pivotal reason that the Cowboys won a playoff game. Tony, do you think that it would have been smart to have played him the week before or to have ensured that he was healthy and ready for the Seahawks?
I'm going to lean on having your best players available when it matters.
Because what if he'd gotten hurt, Tony, in that week 17 game against the Giants? Would it have been worth it?
No, definitely not.
Sturch, was it worth it to rest Zeke, or are you pissed because you were there and they didn't play him and you didn't feel as good as you possibly could have?
First of all, people are coming in attacking me in the chat right now, saying that I'm all about stats. Yeah, first of all, fantasy football's over. Okay, that's 1. 2. No, I think you guys missed the point. I'm not going to win this argument.
We missed the point when we made a good one.
I'm not going to win.
Tony,
listen, I'm not going to win. I'm not going to win this argument because there's literally 5 of you. Even Tom, I feel like, has already jumped ship.
Wow.
5 of you guys have left my side on this, and that's fine.
I'm still
totally
with
fine
you.
with it. I hope. Listen, there's no ounce of my being that wants the Cowboys to go into the playoffs.
No, Sturch,
right?
but you're not answering the question.
What's
Was
the
it
question?
wise to sit Zeke that day in New York?
Of course it was. Yeah, why not?
Interesting.
Well, cherry picked there, RJ.
Yeah,
That's my
Jason
job here,
also
Tom. I said
Jason
it was to
Garrett.
instigate. That's my job.
I'll throw that back at you and say Jason Garrett. He's made all the best decisions. He's
So
scholar.
So when he finishes the fight and has those guys playing, then do you support that? You support Jason Garrett?
Finish the fight. Yeah, they've gotten finished. The fight was finished every time he got to the playoffs.
And he's been having them play, in the finale. They blew out Washington, that in 14, and then
you're proving my point, Dan.
Well, I like Jason Garrett, so I'm not gonna. But if you're supporting Garrett, a coach that's doing things and honestly, that scared me when he did that too. So I didn't like it then when it was
reckless. It worked out, but it was reckless. Like that, both things can be true. And Dez got the record, and it was fun and everything that day in Washington. It was awesome, but it was reckless, and that's okay.
Yeah.
It was silly, but
I just think that like I don't want people to get the wrong idea of like the bigger picture here. Like obviously I want the Cowboys to go on a run, right? That's not me. I'm not saying like, if the Cowboys, if they don't play this week, they'll probably get bounced in the first round. If they get bounced in the first round, it's because they got bounced in the first round, right? I'm not talking about injuries. I'm not talking about other factors.
That's still not true because
I want to win on Saturday.
That's still not true, Sturch, because they could get bounced in the first round because they don't have somebody that could have helped them that they lost because they played him for silly reasons in Week 18 on Saturday night against Philadelphia.
I understand that logic, and I guess maybe me. I'm not the oldest here, but like I have an old school mentality, I guess, where I'm just like, go out there and play to win the game, and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe and obviously I am wrong according to the chat, according to you guys. That's fine. I'm okay with being wrong. I'll die on this hill. I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Does that anybody have any? Tom, you're starting to speak.
Yeah, I just don't think this team.
Also, Tom, how do you feel
ready
about
to take
Sturch
the
assuming
time
you
off.
left your team? That was kind of cold of him.
Yeah, that's okay. He's heated. I understand. He's got passion. He's trying to make his, but I don't think these players are ready to rest because I just think they've got too many issues they need to work on at least somewhat in this game. I think if they roll in and just rest all the starters and assume they've got it fixed for the likely rematch with Arizona, it's not gonna turn out well. I feel very uncomfortable about that idea.
Anybody have any final thoughts?
I just want to say, Sturch mentioned that, fantasy football is over, and he's right. And it's over because NFL coaches, in the final week of the season, they know that player health is better than winning the football game.
Let's go, Dan. Oh my gosh. Wow, Sturch, your response.
No, I'm just shaking his hand on that one. It was good. That was good.
Okay. Tony, Aidan, you have any final thoughts here? You kind of have to. That's like everybody else has had a final thought. So,
I'm letting Aidan go. I'm letting him go first.
The only point I'd make is we conflate this occurred a lot on your live stream after the game, RJ. There's a difference between resting your starters and just not practice. People think the starters are going to be rusty. They're not going to get any practice. They'll still practice during the week. So, I a couple times in the chat, it's
we also
like
lost to Marcus Lawrence for 10 weeks for practicing. So,
guess you think they shouldn't practice?
Which highlights the level of risk that is involved in this sport. Aidan, please finish your point. Sturch so
no.
Sorry.
No, that's it. That's all I have.
Tony?
At the end of the day, it comes down to having your best players available. Like I said, if they won the Arizona game, I'm all for playing all these guys because there's actually something statistically worth fighting for it. If you're playing the percentages of a 6% chance to move up at all versus the chance of losing Tyron Smith again or Dak Prescott or, even Micah Parsons. And I saw somebody mention on Twitter, like, we're at a point now where, like, you hold your breath to hopefully not lose a defensive player at this point in time, the way the offense is playing. So I don't want to be scared. I don't maneuver scared. I'm not a scared person. I'm really not. But at the end of the day, I'm playing the numbers and I'm playing the chances. And I love the idea of having our best football players go 2 weeks a full 2 weeks before they play in another football game where they're supposed to empty the clip and go as hard as they possibly can. And we're talking about Dak Prescott's going to run and play like there's no tomorrow, but you can't really do that if you get hurt in Philadelphia on a Saturday night.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, Tony, there's a reason that everybody wants the first round bye, but the Cowboys are in a situation where they can manufacture their own. So why wouldn't they? I mean, would you refute the first round bye, Sturch?
No, but I would say that if the Cowboys are rolling, right, for weeks 15, 16, 17, 18, all the way through, I almost wouldn't want the bye. I would want to just keep rolling through.
Okay.
And that's a whole thing called momentum.
It's now time to establish winners for tonight. What a riveting discussion we have had here. I mean, seriously, Professor X, Aidan Davis, going up against Bane from, basically everywhere in Tom Ryle. Meanwhile, you got Sturch and Tony, Al Pacino, and I can't think of anybody else that would work for this analogy. And Dan, the moderate neutral, who's just coming in embodying Sturch at the right times. Dan, I'm going to put you in pole position here. Our winners tonight, everybody. Congratulations to Dan, Aidan, Tony, Catalina, three-way tie, our champions here this evening. Dan, since you are in the spot, you get word first. Congratulations to you, sir.
Well, thank you, and thanks to my, partners on this. I don't know. To me, that was an easy one, I think, with as far as how to go about it. Tom and Sturch had a really tough hill to climb. And, and I applaud Sturch for dying on that hill and watching us, allowing us to watch it happen.
Too, man. What's no one wants to give you credit, Tom. You were on the team all the way to the very end. I'm with you. Don't worry. Aidan, a word of thanks. If you want, throw them my way. No big deal.
Thank you, RJ. But I want to shout out Casey and Ethan in the chat. They've just been kind of supporting every argument and supporting every. They've just been very supportive, and I just wanted to give those two people shout outs. They've been great.
Tony,
I want to extend an olive branch to Sturge. Because
what about Tom? Tom had the same points that Sturge did.
But so at the end of the day, hope one of these teams are going to be right, and I hope it's it results in wins. At the end of the day, we just want the Cowboys to win, and whatever happens, hopefully it results in a win. But hey, we'll see what happens.
Aidan, you mentioned it. Casey, I had a comment I loved. Casey Hammond says, "Love the discourse. Thank you guys for going hard in the paint for what you believe. I appreciate it." Casey, I was so inspired by this comment that we have two more winners. Tom and Sturch added to the winners list.
Thank you very much. But I want you to also highlight the last Casey comment that's in the chat right now that I believe that's the one that should stick, and I'm sticking with it. I believe it says lone winner
Sturge.
Sturge.
We'll go with that too.
You didn't hear me call you Sturge?
No,
Ethan also said you're all winners. So we really are. Really nice words. Tom, some closing thoughts. Tie a bow on all this for us. There was a lot of heat. I feel like, Tom, I went to bat for you. Again, everybody here wanted to discredit your point. But I made sure that you got your credit.
Yeah. I just want to say that in the end score of these things, I feel like I'd do a lot better if the referee wasn't prejudiced against me. Thank you very much.
Tom, you're my favorite.
Don't worry, you're getting a letter in the mail tomorrow, Tom.
Yeah, exactly. You, DeMarcus Lawrence, and Nick Sirianni. Great talk, everybody. We'll see what happens. Dan, you close us out. Send us home in style.
You know what? It's only fitting that we close out with Dallas forever, Philly for never.
Cheers. Dan Sirianni with the highlighter on his visor. Well said. Thanks a lot, everybody.